Hello guys, welcome to another episode of Everyday EDC Chats in the Truck, Halloween edition. This is not going to be a knife related video, so those of you looking for knife related content only, feel free to skip this video. Today I'm telling you a friggin' ghost story. This is a true story, and let me preface this. I'm gonna build the preface probably more so than the story, so you guys understand my context in this. First and foremost, I am not a believer, nor am I a disbeliever. I don't call myself I would call myself an optimistic skeptic. And I'm always curious. I always want to know for myself, and everybody else can tell you. They can tell you, just like your dad when you're younger. Don't do that, son. I did that. Learn from my mistakes. Well, I don't learn from those mistakes. I learn from my own. I'm one of those guys that has to make the mistake in order to learn from it, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. It sticks way more when I learn from my own mistakes. Anyways, so when I was younger, I had a couple guys that we were all, rollerbladers and skateboarders and stuff, acting all stupid. We went to a place called Gypsy's Graveyard in Indiana. You can actually look it up. It's supposedly haunted. We didn't get anything. That's not the ghost story. But it kind of sparked my interest, and so there's always been an interest in the paranormal and that kind of stuff. And honestly, like I said, I don't know if I believe or I don't believe, but I love hearing the stories and everybody else's experiences, because the one thing that you can take away from things is that whether or not you believe the story is a ghost or the AC unit faulting, right? It's something that means something to that person. And a lot of times they feel very strongly about it, and I think that's the coolest part of it. So I've been interested in this, went into the military. A couple buddies of mine, while we're on the midnight shift, we'd be fixing gear and in our shop in California, and I'd have YouTube on, and we'd be watching Ghost Adventures, right? Because we're 24-year-old dudes. You see that Zach Bagans dude on there, and he's in the beginning especially, he's jacked, he's walking around, looks all cool, acts all hard ass, and we're like, dude, that dude's awesome. And he's still cool, but it's whatever. So we got the bright idea that we were going to get into it. There was three of us, and to put it into perspective, like, the people that don't know anything about it, you just assume the people that are ghost hunters are like those dudes that live in their mom's basement, and that type of, and again, not judging, but you assume that that's the type of guy. Well, to put that into perspective, you and me, who, right at that time I was still boxing, doing some MMA stuff. I had my buddy who was this huge weightlifter. He was jacked to the gills. So it was like this group of dudes that didn't really fit the stereotypical mold for it. Well, in California, we lived in Lemoore, and there was about 2.5 hours south, there's a town called Paso Robles, and it's a big wine area. It's in the mountains, and there's a graveyard out there. I don't remember the name of it, but there's like graves there that are like from the 1800s, and we found it because you look it up, and it's it's supposedly one of the haunted places in the area. So we buy all the gear, we get all the recorders. I got the frickin' EMF detector, so I'm walking around with this meter checking for electromagnetic frickin' it's hindsight's actually ridiculous, but so we're recording in video and everything. So we get to this graveyard. Never been there before, and oh my god, is it creepy. It's like 1 o'clock in the morning. These gates are just massive and old and wrought iron, and it's just, there's this little entryway that's pitch black to walk through. And by the way, one of the stories is that there's this like dark presence that guards the gate, so we walk through there and we're talking shit because we learned it from ghost hunters and thinking we're cool. And so we're walking in, we're kind of walking around, and it's all right. There's like a lower level, and then you walk up this big hill, and there's an upper level. It's kind of like a 3-tier story. So there's a gravekeeper's shack right in the middle, and my buddy Zach and I are the only two that went this time. We've been up there probably, 6 different times, and have about 10 hours worth of like footage and recording and stuff. This was like the 4th time that we were up there. So we go in this gravekeeper's shack. It's just the two of us, and my buddy Zach's recording on the video, And I just hear him scream, and he's a jack dude. He's not as big as Metal Complex or anything like that, but he's a jack dude. Like, the dude's pretty jacked to the gills. And he just screams like the biggest bitch in the world. You know, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I turn around and I see this bat fly out of the freaking gravekeeper shack. No joke, like, you couldn't have wrote this. Like, it was hilarious. And I just looked to him, and we're just dying laughing, and his heart's racing. He's like doing that awkward laugh, like, yeah, that was funny. So, you know, no. But we go up to the top section of the graveyard, and there was this World War II veterans gravestone that every single time that we would go there, you know, whoever I was with, we would stand around the gravestone and kind of have like a moment of silence out of respect for like his time in service and stuff. And it was, you know, it's just a thing that you do out of respect, and especially when you're in the military, you have like a heightened sense of patriotism and respect. So, you know, we pay respect to that guy. But on the other side of the upper graveyard, there's an obelisk. And for those of you that don't know what an obelisk is, imagine the Washington Monument, right? It's that giant just pillar with the point at the top. Well, there was one of those. It's basically a memorial. It's not anybody's buried there or anything. And it's a memorial in the corner, and I don't know what the memorial was for. I think it was so old that you couldn't see. But you could tell, like, kids were up there. There was, like, pentagrams and stuff and wax, and it's just like, we had, I will say, not trying to deviate from the story, but we had a strict set of rules when we went, because while we were going for fun, we were also going for the atmosphere, and, you know, we were curious. So we had to have a set of rules to follow, and obviously one of them's absolute respect when you're there. Like, you're not there to destroy anything. Like, you be as respectful as possible with everything going on. And, you know, anyways. So, yeah, it kind of pisses us off that there's a pentagram, but it's also creepy, you know. We've done our research. That's a totally different story on the research. That shit's creepy as shit. But, so we're up there, and I feel this, like, thing brush up against the back of my head. You know, and you don't know if it's your nerves or if it's the wind or a chill. And I'm like, wow, that was odd. And so you treat everything when you're out there like it's the truth. You treat it like it's a real thing, because just in case it is, you want to be, you know, addressing whatever it is. And again, we don't believe, but it was our guideline of rules that we had to go by. And so, you know, I'm like, oh, if that was you, touch the back of my head again. Well, the back of my head, as soon as I said that, stood up again. Now, placebo effect, maybe. I don't know. I'm not attributing that to anything. But it was odd, because I go, now do it to Zach. So what happens? Zach feels it on the back of his head. Like, it's like somebody brushing their hand up against the back of your hair, like real lightly, just so you can feel your hair move. And you're like, dude. You know? So it happens to Zach 3 times, and then I say, you know, okay, why don't you tap Zach in the forehead? Like, at this point, we're just, like, figuring out what the hell. And he feels a slight pressure on his forehead. Again, placebo effect, maybe. You know, take that for what you will. This isn't the part of the ghost story. So we do all that, and we treat it as it's a real thing. We captured no evidence, no EVP shit, no video camera shit, nothing, no camera stuff. And we go home. So it was just a feeling. It's like that feeling like when you're watching Ghost Adventures, for those of you that do, when they're like, oh, look at my arm, man. I got my hair standing up, and you're in the back of your mind, you're like, bullshit. Well, it's not necessarily bullshit, because that's how he feels. Now, is it bullshit that it's a ghost? Probably. But so we go home and we don't get anything. We come back like 2 weeks later, and there's another guy with us. And we go right back to that spot, because we want to treat it like, once again, if there is something there, let's talk to it. And we're all standing around this obelisk, and I open up the EVP recorder, and I wish I still had the footage. I had to insert it here. And I go, if that was you 2 weeks ago that touched both the Zach and I's back of the head, you know, let me know. Say something. And we kind of follow through. So it's a 2.5 hour long drive, there and back. And on the way back, I would always plug my recorder with like an auxiliary cord into my car and listen to the recording like on full blast, as loud as your ears can take, so that you can hear anything going on. And when I looked into that recorder and said, if that was you, let us know, I'm not shitting you, and I'm not making this up. Like, the preface before I talk about this, we have about 60 to 100 hours of recordings and footage and audio that we have never gotten anything. So it's, you know, once again, Ghost Adventures, they get something every fucking night they go out. Whatever. But we never got anything. This is the only thing in my life that we've ever captured. So back to the story. I said, all right, so if that was you, you know, let me know. In the recording, and it we all just, like, our jaws dropped in the car. In the recording, you hear, yep. Like, and it's loud and it's talking into the microphone. Now, to preface that, the rules that we have is when somebody is talking and we're recording, you are not allowed to speak. You cannot, because it distorts anything and you might mistake it for something else. No whispering, no speaking, no extra sound. You are to stay dead silent when somebody else is talking. So, was that you? Yep. All right. You know, and we're like, oh, shit. So, I forgot what else we were saying. We were saying something like, and we don't hear that in person. We hear that in the car afterwards. So I go, well, you know, if that was you, you know, were you the one that touched the back of Zach's head and, you know, tapped him on the forehead? And you hear this in the background, and it's in the microphone, but it sounds muffled. But you can tell it's like leaning on the microphone. You hear, uh-huh. Like an uh-huh. Like it was clear. It wasn't one of those where you're like, what did that say? No, it was like uh-huh. And I asked it one more question, and I don't remember what the question was, but it said, it responded with yes. And in the car, our hair was standing on end. We were like, oh, fuck. Well, the ironic part is after we did that recording, I left the recorder at that obelisk. As we went down, and like the three of us went down to the lower portion of the graveyard, left that recording. So you could hear us in the background, you know, when we're down, and it's pretty far, and so you hear us at a distance, like, talking and doing our thing. It was at the 44-minute and 16-second mark. We hear, I'm an Army, and I can't tell if it said private or pilot, but it was somebody sounding off. Now, those of you in the military that know what sounding off is, it's where you're standing at attention and you're not yelling, but you're raising your voice and you're talking with authority. So, I'm a you know, and it goes, I'm an Army, we'll say pilot. I'm an Army pilot, and you hear that in the background, but it sounds far away from the microphone. Now, once again, to put that into perspective, we're in the middle of the mountains. We are in a winery, like a wine country area. So there's only, I think once we turned onto the mountain road, we saw 2 houses in a 30-minute drive. So we were out in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing, you know, everywhere we walked, we can hear coyotes yipping like 10 feet away from us. It was kind of creepy. But yeah, so those 2 things in the same recording. So whatever was happening that day, whether or not it was picking up a radio interference or something, was all happening all at once. And the ironic part about all of it is we thought the moment we captured some sort of evidence that it would answer like all these questions. Like, you now know if there's ghosts, you now know if there's an afterlife. It doesn't answer shit. In your mind, you're like, what was that? Like, you know, an easy, you know, want type of answer would be, yeah, that's a ghost. But then you gotta think, all right, is it radio interference in the middle of the mountains? That kind of doesn't make too much sense. You know, what is it? So that's really my own personal ghost story that I've ever experienced. Within 60 to 100 hours of footage, that is all I got. We got some pictures with stuff we couldn't explain. There was a couple things where we thought was something, and then we watched the video while we were recording, and we figured out it wasn't what it was. But I can tell you, it was very, very fun. Like, doing it in the atmosphere was just really fun. It was dorky, and it was just something that we dove headfirst into, and really got into something that, you know, it wasn't a malicious hobby, so that was cool. I'm gonna tell a story real quick about my buddy. And this one gives me chills. I have a buddy that I grew up with that absolutely refuses to go on any type of ghost hunt or anything like that. And when I finally asked him why, because he didn't even want to talk about it, he told me a story of when he was about 13 to 14 years old. His grandfather had passed away. And his grandfather was, like, they were inseparable, the way he describes it. He says that he would always come pick him up on the weekends. They would go golfing. They would do, like typical good grandfather, grandson type of things. Well, his grandfather passed away unexpectedly because I guess they didn't know that he had, like, a very aggressive form of cancer that, you know, unless you catch almost before you catch it, like, you're not gonna live through it. Like, it was one of those types. And so he passed away, and it was relatively unexpectedly. And he went into a funk, he says, for about 3 months. This dude, like, he couldn't, like, he was barely eating for those 3 months. I mean, it hit him hard. It was like his best friend. He told me that one night he was sleeping, and he was in that, like, half sleep state where you could open your eyes if you wanted to. Like, you could tell yourself to open your eyes and they would open, but, like, you're still pretty much sleeping. It was, you guys know what I'm talking about. And he felt pressure on the end of his bed, like somebody sat down, is the way he described it. Well, he opens his eyes, and I get chills talking about it. He opens his eyes and he sees his grandfather that recently passed. And his grandfather was looking at him, smiling. And he goes, and I'm not going to say the guy's name, but he goes, you know, my buddy, just, I know you're not feeling well, and I know you don't feel good about all this, but trust me, I'm in a better place, I'm happy, and I need you to be happy too. And it's one of those things that, like, I remember it word for word, the way he described it, because he remembered it word for word and was so very, very passionate, and just, you could tell that he believed 100% what he was saying. And he goes, you know, I need you to be happy. Well, my buddy Dave says he kind of, like, fell back asleep. Like he sat there staring at him until he fell back asleep. He woke up and his grandfather was gone. But he tells me that morning that I woke up, obviously I still missed my grandfather, but I felt good. And he goes, I believed that he was happy and in a better place. And that is just, you know, my story is nothing. It's kind of more of a campfire story. Like, it means something to me, and I don't even know what the hell it means, type of thing. And like I said, the only thing that I got out of, like, 100 hours of searching and footage and shit, this meant something to him. That's what I mean by it. It genuinely meant something, and it was something that shook the foundation of what he believes. And you believe him. Like I knew the guy for 18 years, not up until, maybe it was 18 years at that point. No, it was like 8 years at that point. But I knew when he was bullshitting me and when he wasn't. And this wasn't a bullshit moment. This was genuine belief, genuine kind of fear, just because you're talking ghost story. And it was just absolutely just genuine. So I know some of you were hoping that when I said I had a ghost story, I had something creepy. I don't have any creepy ghost stories. I don't have anything that, the atmosphere scares you more than anything. Yeah. So I'm at work, guys. My carry for the day is the steel wheel sedge. I know I said I wasn't going to do any knife stuff, but I feel bad. The steel wheel sedge, and this is the only thing I grabbed from home, but I have the Tucson TS, I always forget this freaking thing. I don't remember what this is. TS80, I think it is. And this is going in my pocket as well. So, thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Tyler. This has been Everyday EDC. You guys stay sharp, stay safe. Have a safe Halloween, guys. Check your candy before you eat it. I know everybody's getting dressed up and going out. And happy Friday.